To order the 2025 meeting of the Arizona Game and Fish Commission Appointment Recommendation Board. This is the interview process. We have 7 candidates to interview today. Let's start with some introductions. If Mr. Basha, you'll start on my right, then we'll carry through.
I'm Johnny Basha. I work in the grocery business. I am Senior Vice President of Bashas, owned by Rayleigh's of Arizona. And I am sponsored by the Mule Deer Association.
My name is Michael Cravens. I live up in Parks, Arizona, just west of Flagstaff. And I serve as the Advocacy and Conservation Director for the Arizona Wildlife Federation, but I'm here today representing the public.
My name is Richard Williams. I am from Scottsdale, Arizona. I represent an organization whose membership consists of a significant cross-section of wildlife conservation and sportsman organizations from throughout the state, and that organization is the Arizona Sportsmen for Wildlife Conservation.
My name is Jared Lyman, owner-operator of Lyman Ranches out of Tonto Basin. I'm here representing Arizona Cattle Growers Association. That's who nominated me, put me forward. Recent member of the executive committee for Arizona Cattle Growers, spent 4 years there. We've been in Arizona for 12 years. Prior to that, originated in southern Utah, where my great-great-grandfather was the first permanent settler of a small town called Boulder.
Good morning, my name is Nathan Reese. I'm representing Trout Unlimited, which is a national conservation organization based here in Tempe, Arizona, and really excited to interview our candidates today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Cooley. I'm an Assistant Attorney General.
And I'm Madeline Gaffney, the Board Secretary.
Thank you. Now, again, Madeline, I want to thank you for your yeoman's work and keeping us together and scheduled and all the stuff that has to go on to get this in place. Do we have any call to the public? Do we have any blue slips? Okay. I think we don't. Okay, we'll move on to item 3 of the agenda, discussion and deliberation of board process and procedures. We went through this the first meeting, but I think I'll go through the second meeting 2-part only. We'll skip meeting 1 since we've had that meeting. Just to refresh everybody and for new members, and please ask questions or stop me if you need to. The agenda lists the applicants and time slots for their interviews. Each applicant is given 45 minutes with an opening remark by the applicant, followed by questions from the board and an opportunity for the applicant to make a closing remark. We will watch our time and we will stop the questions in order to give closing remarks. Generally, that's not necessary, but we will if we need to. Applicants waiting for the interview are not permitted to listen or to observe the interviews, but once they're interviewed, may stay to observe the remaining interviews or leave if they so choose. The interview process consists of 2 rounds of questions. Each board member asks his or her first question with an option to ask a clarifying follow-up question. After all board members have asked their first question, board members ask their second question, again with the option of having a clarifying question. The chairman determines the order of questioning, and the order remains the same for both rounds. I will alternate the start of the questions for each candidate, so I'll start left on one side, right on the other side. So somebody's not in the hot seat all the time. If the 45-minute time slot is due to expire, the chair will stop questioning at an appropriate opportunity and ask for a closing remark so that applicants have equal time for their interview. The chair may modify the time schedule as needed to provide for breaks. Following the completion of the interviews, the chairperson calls for a written vote. The voting is conducted in public. Each board member is given a ballot with applicants' names. Board members each have 20 points that they can allot to their preferred applicants. If only 4 board members are present, then it's 25 points apiece. No board member may award more than 10 points to any one applicant. Board members are not required to allocate all 20 points if they so choose. The members shall then provide their written ballots to the secretary for tallying. Note the marked ballots and all notes made by the board members during interviews are public records and must be turned over. The secretary tallies the points and announces the total points received by each applicant. The chair entertains a motion to approve a list of candidates to forward to the governor. The board must forward a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 5 candidates to the governor's office. And there is a suggested motion there that we can use for nominating for a vote. The chair asks, is there a second to the motion if one is not already stated, and if seconded, rereads the entire motion and calls for a voice vote. If approved by a majority, the chair restates the list of candidates to be sent to the governor's office. If the motion does not pass, the chairperson shall entertain subsequent motion until one is approved. Any questions about that? Okay. That brings us to item 4, disclosures and recusals. Let's start on my left with Mr. Reese.
The only member I know previous to this was Patrick Cooley, which we interviewed last year, and that was the only capacity I've, interviewed him with. So I have no reason to recuse myself today.
This is Jared. I have no knowledge of these individuals, so no need for recusals or disclosures.
I am familiar with a couple of the candidates. Jessica Manuel is a member of the NWTF, as am I. I know her briefly through that organization. Patrick Cooley was before us before interviewing. I do not know him personally, but given that, I have no reason to recuse myself.
I sat in on interviews last time as a member of the public and know Patrick Cooley through that process. Jessica Manuel is somewhat of a neighbor of mine, and I do know her, but no reason to recuse myself.
I have no reason to recuse myself from any of the candidates like other people on the committee. I was here last year interviewing Mr. Cooley and Ms. Manuel.
Thank you. We like early. All right. Bring Mr. Cooley in if you will. We'll start questionings on the left with Nathan on this round. And I'll explain that too.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Cooley. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for your
You're
interest in
welcome.
becoming a commissioner. Just to refresh you, you will be allowed an opening statement,
Okay.
and then we will go through 2 rounds of questions, each member having a question in each round. And we will stop you in time if it runs over so you can have a closing statement. But we've allotted 45 minutes for this interview.
Okay, great.
So take it away, it's all yours.
Okay, well, again, good morning. My name's Pat Cooley. I was born in Brawley, California in 1964. I grew up in Brawley, and I grew up basically on the Salton Sea. I grew up with a fishing rod in one hand and a shotgun in the other hand. We did a lot of waterfowl hunting and a lot of fishing. I lived to hunt and fish when I was a kid. I was heavily involved in scouting, which was my first experience with conservation projects, earning merit badges for different things. We did conservation projects, and for my Eagle Scout project, I did some waterfowl restoration projects in the Imperial Valley to earn my Eagle Scout award when I was in high school. A year or two before that, I wrote an essay on wildlife conservation for a Green Wing Ducks Unlimited contest, and actually won a spot with 12 other youth from the United States and Mexico and Canada. And we got to go to Banff up in Canada and band ducks and geese with Ducks Unlimited, which was really a tremendous experience for somebody my age at the time. I did a short stint in high school in Central Arizona. My dad was transferred, he worked in agriculture, and we were transferred to Arizona when I was in high school, and it was my first experience with Arizona, and I was impressed completely with the amount of people that actually hunted and fished in Arizona compared to where I came from in Brawley. I grew up in an ag community, but I really didn't know that many people that hunted especially. But when I moved to Arizona, it seemed like everybody in my high school had something to do with hunting and fishing. And I kind of fell in love with Arizona at that point. But then immediately got transferred back to California with my parents. And when I lived in Arizona, it made me want to become a professional bass fisherman. It's in my annual. That was my goal in life, was to become a professional fisherman. But then when I moved away from Arizona, it just wasn't in the cards for me at that point. And I ended up, I have a natural artistic ability. I went to art school out of high school and was going to become a wildlife artist. I've done a lot of wildlife art for charity over the years. I came home on break. I was heavily involved in FFA in high school and raised animals for FFA. And I came home on a break from college to help my brother get ready for the fair. I met my wife, that was in 1983, fell in love and didn't go back to college, and started working in construction. Her and I got married about 2 years later and began having children. I eventually, the guy I worked for in construction is the guy that we wrote this book about. He's the one that taught me more about wildlife conservation than anybody I've ever met. And I brought you guys a copy of the book that we put out so you can understand more about him. So he got me immediately into going into the desert and building water holes. And he started an organization called Desert Wildlife Unlimited, which I was one of the founding members. And we became the world authority on water development, literally. We developed water in Mongolia, Mexico, several states in the West, mostly Southern California, in and around Imperial Valley, where water is really, really scarce. We had a lot of deer and sheep drowning in the canal, the irrigation canals, so we had to do something, and he started this organization, and I became like his right hand and traveled everywhere with him. He became like my second father, and I learned everything there is to know about water development and water hauling. I've personally been involved in the building of hundreds and maintaining hundreds of water holes in Southern California and now in Arizona. When I moved to Arizona, I got a job working in the seed business. Growing up on the Salton Sea, walking cotton fields, I swore I would never be in agriculture, because we spent miserable summers walking cotton fields with my dad, and I didn't want to do that. But my wife's family was in the seed business. I joined the seed business coming out of the construction business, and I have spent the last 40 years in the seed business. When I moved to Arizona, one of the first guys I met in Yuma was a gentleman named John Herbert, who was a biologist for Region 4 and was interested in our expertise in water development. And I became very, very active with Arizona Game and Fish in developing water in southern Arizona and bringing all of our ideas into Arizona Game and Fish, and worked with John I still work with John today on water holes, but have been working with him since 1988 in developing water in Arizona. Like I said, I'm in the seed business. I started off delivering seed. I've had just about every job that the company had to offer in 40 years. And in 2014, I started buying into the company and became a 50-50 partner with my father-in-law, Kelly Keithley. And he passed away 4 years ago, and my wife and I purchased the rest of the company from her mother. And now we're the sole owners of Keithley Williams, which is a global vegetable seed company. We're considered the largest seed dealer in the world. We sell high-end vegetable seed to farmers. And I'm the president and CEO of that company, and I actively run that company day to day. I raised my children in Arizona, in Yuma. That's home to them. I became very active in our Catholic high school. I was one of the founding board members of the Catholic high school and helped build the school, and was involved in designing, developing and running most of the fundraising to build that high school. And we've raised, my wife and I, and with the help of the Yuma community, have raised millions of dollars to build and sustain that high school. I am very involved in fundraising of all different kinds in and around the Yuma area. I'm president of the annual Harvest Dinner, which is the largest agricultural event in the West. And we raise money for ag education very actively. I was also have just gotten off, but I was appointed by the governor as one of the advisors on the Department of Ag's advisory board, and was chair of that board for a couple of years. I did that for quite a few years. I think we were supposed to have a 3-year run, but we ended up being on there close to 12 because they couldn't find good candidates to be on. So I spent quite a bit of time doing that. I have traveled the world hunting and fishing. I've also gotten very involved in conservation and raising money for a conservancy in Zimbabwe. One of my dearest friends who was killed a couple of years ago, I spent 20 years with him in Zimbabwe, and am an active founder, trustee, and board member of this conservation group in Zimbabwe. And we have events to raise money for them, and we travel there. We've provided schooling, we've provided water sources, we've drilled boreholes for the schools so the kids have fresh water. So I spent a lot of time in Africa, in quite a few different countries, doing conservation projects. Because of my interest in hunting and fishing, because I get to travel a lot with our business, I have meetings around the world where I belong to several associations that have seed meetings in different parts of the world, and I always extend those trips to go out into whatever's available to hunt and fish and experience other countries. So I've done a lot of traveling, and I've seen a lot of stuff around the world that involves conservation and game and fish and other wildlife organizations that we work with. I come to this sort of kicking and screaming. I don't want that to sound weird. I have been asked time and time and time again to apply for this position by a lot of people that I know, because they all tell me the same thing: you're perfect for it. You know, you work on this stuff as hard as anybody, and you'd be perfect for this, and we want you to do this. I understand the importance of it, and I want to do it too. I want to make a difference. I want to protect the resource. That's what it's about. That's what this whole job's about, is protecting our resource. Looking at other states and looking at Arizona, we have one of the finest game and fish associations and models of what you can do with wildlife in the world. And I'm proud of that, and I learned that coming from other areas and working with other states on these other projects, that Arizona has done a really, really good job. But things change, things are always needed, there's always need for fine tuning. My wish is not for you guys to pick me as one of the candidates. My wish is for you guys to pick the person that's the best candidate available, regardless of their political affiliation, their gender, or anything else. We need people that care about the resource and are willing to do everything they can to protect it and give it sustainability so that it's available for everybody forever. Because it is something that I think everyone needs to be proud of and take care of. I don't know how long that took, but I think that's about it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Reese?
Thank you, Patrick, for being here today. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you coming back and reapplying again. My first question for you, Arizona has an abundance of sunshine and wind, which provides significant opportunities for growth of renewable energy. We also know these projects are large and impact wildlife from development and operation. What are your views on renewable energy development in Arizona, and how would you guide the department to work with these developers?
Well, first of all, by listening, I don't know a lot about it. I know how solar projects work. I know they're going to have impact on wildlife. Anything that we do, any decision that we make in this state that has an impact on wildlife has to be taken seriously. And if it can be built and put in a way where it's not going to have a negative impact on wildlife and our resource, I think I would be for it. But it's got to make sense. It's got to make sense financially. It's got to make sense that it's even worth doing, and it's not just being done for political reasons or because somebody said renewable energy is the way to go. I would have to learn more about it to make the decision, but my number one concern would be, how does this affect our resource, short-term, long-term, and everything else? It can't be about money. It's got to be about if it fits and works with our state and our resource.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley.
Yes, sir.
So the Mexican gray wolf has had a huge impact on wildlife and livestock in the state of Arizona and New Mexico. What would you change about the management of the Mexican gray wolf?
I think that the whole situation with reintroducing predators into anywhere is going to be the most controversial thing. It's going to have an impact on somebody. And things change over time, and because we had wolves here sometime in our past history doesn't mean that wolves can coexist with us now. And I think that we can try these projects, we can introduce things, but if they're going to cause a major conflict with people's livelihood or public safety, we're barking up the wrong tree. You know, there's a reason there's no grizzly bears in California anymore. You know, it's on their state flag. It used to be one of the most populated areas in the country for grizzly bears. We're not reintroducing grizzly bears into California. Should we be introducing gray wolves into Arizona? You know, I don't know. I haven't sat in the meetings, but if it's going to cause a conflict, I think we need to be very careful in making a decision to do something like that, because it's not an easy thing to monitor and protect and keep these wolves out of conflict with ranchers and people. And they're just doing what they do naturally. They don't know any better, you know. But they've been placed in a situation where if they don't mind their manners, they're going to get in trouble, and we're going to have to take care of the trouble. So I look at it as very controversial and something that is very difficult to apply to modern society, I think.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooley, tell us what you believe to be the two most important issues that the Game and Fish Department will face in the next 5 years.
Resources, monetary resources, I think are always going to be huge, and I think it's going to be one of your biggest issues. But I also think continuing to do everything you can to have everybody that's involved understand what the mission is, and not changing the mission for political reasons or selfish reasons or monetary reasons that lose sight of what we are charged to do, and that is protect the game, the wildlife, the fish, the resource of Arizona. That's what the commission is charged to do, and if they lose sight of that, if they lose sight of the ground and the people in the field and the ones on the front line and the ones that are doing the conservation projects, and they turn their attention too much to other things, that is going to be the death of this resource. So I would think, to shorten it up, it's going to be resources and staying focused on what the mission is.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooley?
Yes, sir.
While hunting and fishing are cornerstones of conservation in Arizona and justify intense management of game species, how would you ensure that both game and non-game species receive appropriate attention and funding in management plans?
It's a big job. It's almost easier to look at, hunting and fishing as management tools and use those for keeping things in check. Because if you base it on science and you keep the emotion out of it, it's a very effective way to balance. But this is much bigger than game animals. Sheep are the diamonds of Arizona. Desert sheep, that's a tremendous resource for this state. A lot of time and energy and money go into sheep because of what they stand for, because of the money they bring in, because they're a symbol of the desert in Arizona, and blah, 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 blah. But are they any more valuable than a coatimundi or a desert skunk or some sort of bird that's out there? The one thing that's been really, really fascinating to me about water development, especially in the desert, is the array and variety of animals that use those. It's not just game animals. And I love looking at trail cam pictures of vultures and mountain lions and bobcats and every kind of bird species you can imagine in these water holes. Our impact on wildlife is much bigger than the game species, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to consider everything. We have to consider snakes, we have to consider turtles. We have to consider everything that's living out there, because that's the resource and that's what it's charged with, and there's a balance there. And we built the freeways, we built the dams, we built the homes, we built the cities. It's our responsibility to protect everything in that resource. Yes, sir.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to see you.
Yes, thank you. You too.
From your experience in water development, how would you use that and apply it to Arizona game and fish's habitat conservation efforts?
So, most of my conservation work has been in water development,
Yes, sir.
but we've also done a lot of work in developing food plots, waterfowl habitat, dove habitat, quail habitat. I was heavily involved in the Salton Sea cleanup projects and all of the wetlands that were built on the New and Alamo rivers for helping to clean up the runoff water from the farm ground. I own vegetable nurseries that we grow vegetable plants for farmers, but we also do many restoration projects of bulrushes, mesquite trees. We just did a big project with one of the Indian reservations down in Yuma to replace a bunch of mesquite trees along the Colorado River. When you get into projects this deep, from fundraising to building to maintaining, it doesn't matter if you're building houses, you're building buildings, you're building a business, you're building water holes, you're learning all the time the ins and outs of handling projects. And every project has their own nuances and their own political agendas and their own stuff that you have to deal with. So you have to apply all the things that you know best you can, but the one thing you've got to do is listen and understand what you're dealing with before you start making decisions, because it's not going to be one fix for all. But I just believe that it's about learning all the time, and it's about doing everything you can to give back. It's not about taking.
Mr. Reese?
And my second question for you, Patrick. Wildlife habitat management requires close coordination with the federal land management agencies. What are your views about these lands, and what type of relationship with the federal land managers would you guide the Arizona Game and Fish Department to develop?
Well, I believe in taking off your hat and putting your best foot forward and being humble in these situations and understanding how to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. We can't complain about everybody else, and everybody's not going to be the same, and every organization that we work with is going to be different. So again, we've got to develop a relationship. I'm a salesman by trade. I sell, that's what I do. But the biggest part of selling is developing a relationship and developing trust. And if you develop the right relationship and you develop trust, most of the time you don't have to make the ask. And that's also very true in fundraising. Most of the time when I have to raise money, I don't even really have to make the ask. People know what we need and what's coming because of the relationship and the involvement. And I think it's the same when you work with other organizations. I have 147 different suppliers from around the world that I work with in my business. And I travel the world to have meetings with all of those people. And I go there wanting to know what they want from me and what I can do better. I don't go there to tell them what they can do better for me. It'll come to that, you know. But I think if you start off any of these understanding what their needs are, and they understand what your needs are, and you build the right kind of relationships, you can be unstoppable doing anything you want to do with these organizations.
Thank you.
In your presentation and through the questions, Mr. Cooley, you've talked a lot about the importance of the commission and Arizona Game and Fish protecting the natural resources that we have. IFA pointed to the commission, and you had very limited constraints. What is one thing that you would do immediately as a commissioner?
Learn. There's so much to learn and understand the day-to-day of what the commission does. I mean, if I read what they're charged with, it's overwhelming. A lot of things on there are things that I've never been involved with. And I think getting into any group like that, you know, I'm a take charge, get after it, work hard type of person. And everything I do, I go after it, you know, balls out. But I've also learned as I've gotten older that I can't just do what I want, run over people, and take the hill at all costs. I've got to understand the situation we're in. I've got to respect everybody in the group, and I've got to learn what they're up against before I chime in too deeply on decisions or things that I would want to do.
Mr. Cooley, one of the challenges that the department faces is the awareness of the public of the department and what the department does, which is, as you might imagine, important as we try to achieve the mission. What ideas do you have to increase the awareness of the public towards the Game and Fish mission?
You know, I've been very impressed lately with the amount of communication I've been getting from Game and Fish, just as a general. I don't know if it's because I have a hunting license or if I'm involved so much with Game and Fish, but I'm getting almost weekly, if not every few day, emails from Game and Fish, and I'm really impressed with the quality of what they're doing. I think everybody's sick of getting emails and getting junk emails. I get lots, and I have to sort through it and make sure I'm reading what's important. But I've been very, very impressed with the information that I've been getting lately. So I would encourage that they continue to do that and expand upon that. But the other thing that made a huge difference for me was being involved on the ground level with Game and Fish. Other places in the country I've been, people don't get along with Game and Fish. They look at them as law enforcement. They hide from Game and Fish. They try to keep things from Game and Fish. They think that Game and Fish exists to write tickets and bust people for violations, which is It's part of the program. But the thing that impressed me about coming to Arizona and Yuma especially is when I got involved with all the wildlife managers and the game wardens, these guys became like friends of mine, and I understood really well what they were up against and became an advocate for game and fish and not anti against game and fish. I was in a state where they had this big deer contest, and this is after I lived in Arizona, and I said, so what is game and fish? Oh no, we don't invite them. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have game and fish involved in your big deer contest? It's because they were at odds. So I think connecting sportsmen's groups, education, schools, children, colleges, anything you can to educate, because I think there's a role of game and fish to educate as much as they patrol and protect and arrest and write tickets. I think wildlife managers need to be as much about wanting to educate the public as they are about catching people doing things wrong. Because if they would educate people like that, people would police themselves and they could curtail people wanting to hide and do things wrong. And accidents happen. You know, there's times when somebody shoots a bighorn sheep and the one standing behind it gets hit too. And that's just either somebody's ignorance or they didn't look first before they shot. But when something like that happens, the first thing that needs to be done is game and fish needs to be called in, not hide it, you know? And if you work closely like we have with game and fish and these projects and everything, you're more inclined to call the people you trust, and that's the same guys that are there to protect your resource. So I think education at all levels everywhere is what is needed.
Mr. Cooley, as a commissioner, how would you ensure your decisions are based on credible science and data rather than anecdotes or external pressure?
I think the big thing is you've got to listen to the experts. You've got to listen to your own people. There are times in this state, I know examples of where the guys that know, the guys that are skilled and educated, the biology and stuff are ignored and are not given the respect and letting them lead the charge in some of these issues. You have got to learn and listen to sound science and keep your own agenda out of it, because it's based on science completely. You know, it's caring is an emotion that starts it. You know, we care and we want to do this, and we know it's valuable and we want to take care of it. And you know, most of the guys I know that hunt and fish want to take care of it more than anybody, and that may sound selfish, but I think it's they understand it better than most people. They live it, they're out there, they know it, and they know how they want to protect it and they want to protect it. But you can't protect it on emotion. You have to base it on facts, history, science, and you have to look at how it works, and that's the way you have to manage it.
Before I ask my last question, sir, I just wanted to point one thing out.
Yes, sir.
Our commission here, we pick the top candidates and we submit to the governor between 2 and 5 applicants, and it's the governor that picks.
Sure.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that, sir.
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Your experience in the farm and ranch industry, do you have ideas how your industry could work with the state game and fish, and collaborate with one another to improve our county resources?
Yeah, you know, I work with farmers everywhere. I mean, I've been with farmers everywhere all around the world. I've walked fields. Every farmer in the world has the same problems to one degree or another. The other thing that's in common with farmers is most of them are rural landowners, and they care as much or more about the environment than anybody. But they also have to make a living in that environment, so it has to work for them too, right? It's a balance. Most of the growers I know are already working with game and fish or the federal wildlife agencies, or whoever they need to be working with to provide a opportunity to work together. And I understand there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, the guys that are out with me on water projects, the guys that are out with me on conservation projects, most of these guys are farmers. Most of these guys are rural agriculture. And they want to get along and they want to be part of the issue. So again, it goes back to getting them involved, mingling, developing relationships, and understanding each other's problems. I don't know if people know how bad it is, but the water situation in Arizona right now with the Colorado River is a monster. And it's going to be really, really difficult to solve, especially for the guys that need the water to produce all the food that they're producing down in the Yuma area. They have the #1 rights on the river for that water, and they're having a hard time protecting that because of political reasons and voting power and everything else. And that's not why those rules were designed. They were designed to protect something and protect a resource. And you need to be very careful about changing those. And I look at the resource of Arizona, wildlife resources, whether it's habitat, whether it's water or whatever, we have got to understand what we're protecting, why we're protecting it, and make the right decisions. And it's about education, education, educations. And when I use the word ignorant, I don't mean that in a bad way, that somebody's stupid or they don't know. They're not educated, they haven't lived it, they don't know the resource. And these things are the devil, okay? They're destroying people's minds because people think if they read something on here, that's the way it is. And it's not. You've got to get involved. You've got to get in the middle of it. You've got to understand it before you can make decisions about it, because there's too many people making decisions about one TikTok post they got. And that's scary to me. So again, I think it goes back to relationship building and education.
Thank you for your,
Yes, sir.
your answers. We'll let you end with a closing statement.
I plead with you guys to look at these candidates, okay, which I happen to be one, and I'm not asking this for myself. I'm asking because I care about the state, I care about the resource, and I want it to go the right way. Please pick the person or people that you feel are most qualified to do this job and present those to the governor. And hopefully she'll feel the same way, and she'll pick whoever she thinks is the best person for the job. If she does that, I'm not disappointed. I won't be disappointed, because I'm like everybody else. I want the best commission we can have. I want the commission that will do the job, that will recognize their job and do it for the right reasons. You know, so I just implore you guys to please look at it that way. And as far as I know, you do. But pick the right candidates and send them to her, and hopefully the process works correctly. You know, that's why we're going through all this, right? It just, in my heart, I want the best person in the job, and that's not necessarily me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your candidness, and thank you for coming today.
Thanks for your time, guys, and I appreciate your dedication and your work on this. I know it takes a lot of time, and good luck with this.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Also, Mr. Chair, Mr. Madish actually had to withdraw. He will not be coming. Julie is here though, so we can slide her into that spot if you'd like.
Mr. Herr is on.
He's not here yet. His is 10:45, but Julie is.
Should we move on? Blake?